Welcome, folks, to the virtual tour of intentional communities. I am so glad that you are here, that you have found your way to this online event where we're going to be hearing about a diversity of communities that make up this wonderful communities movement. Big hello to all of you. My name is Cynthia, and I'm going to be the host for today's event. Here we are for the April 2023 virtual tour. We have Altair EcoVillage, Collectivo Tacotal, and Dandelion Community. Really a diversity of different places. We were talking about that before everyone joined, how it's quite the mix-up for this month's event. So I'm looking forward to digging into the differences between these different models of intentional community and all the ways that it can look. Okay, so first up, we have Joel and Margot here from Altair EcoVillage, which is a forming community in Pennsylvania. And I've been tracking them for a while, so I'm really curious to find out from them, what's the latest in this developing community? Big welcome, Joel and Margot.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Can everybody see the screen? Push share screen. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, there you go. We can hear you though.
Okay, good.
Looks great.
Okay. Margot and I helped start Altair EcoVillage, believe it or not, in 1999. We're, I guess, the longest running burning souls in the movement. And we changed the name to EcoVillage a few years ago. We will tell you the difference between the two. We've been part of FIC for that full time, and we've watched it grow, and we're so glad that co-housing is now a big part of it. When we first joined, it was not. There are over 300 so-called eco-villages listed in the FIC directory, and they're all different. We're going to give you a bit of our own definitions. So I'll hand it off to Margot here.
Okay. So here's our agenda for today. We're just going to review what co-housing is and how that differs from other kinds of intentional communities, and what an eco-village is, etc. Okay, Joel? So here we go. Co-housing. So one of the things we love is that we each have our own private home, as well as the community that we live in. And actually, we're a forming community here in Kimberton, Pennsylvania. So this is our wannabe community, a place where, so co-housing makes it easy to gather with friends because we design pedestrian walkways and nodes where we'll be gathering, sharing a community garden, and just being together. We do have 55 and older community here that we're aiming for, and 20% can be below 55. So these are some of the definitions. And here is a picture of a built community, Cully Grove, Portland, that shows the court design. So we are fully participatory when we're using sociocracy, which is a governance form of consensus. And we love it because Joel and I, though we're founders and some of the older members, we by doing rounds, we are able to broaden the base and include a wider group of members who are working together to manage our community. And so thereby we're teaching each other, we're working on how we're going to age in community and what our live work opportunities can be. So we're also looking for a work share program that from the get-go, we're going to be fully asking each other to participate and share in the work of the community. Okay. Also the outside community, the larger surrounding neighborhoods.
Eco-villages vary with every single eco-village. If you ask what is an eco-village, you're going to get 300 different answers if you go through the FIC directory. I'm going to briefly go through the way that the GEN describes it. This is the Global EcoVillage Network, which is a highly recognized international group. And I'll show you briefly the 4 major themes of an eco-village, which we espouse. The first is, we're not going to blindfold you and make you pin the tail on the peach here, but we will relate and encourage all differences. We actually hired Alan Ohashi, volunteer, by the way, to talk about cultural differences. And it really is important. Here we have some meaningful work. One of our interns laying a path in our woods. We are also working with health practices in the community. We're involved with Camp Hill villages, Waldorf schools, and so on in the neighborhood. So we're very much in the realm of educating and providing different forms of healthcare that are more aligned with nature rather than the big medical practices. Moving along to the second major aspect is ecological. And I will tell you that this makes Altair distinct from most co-housing communities. And I'll show you why a little later. We do have community supported agricultures within 2 miles, 3 of them. So there's no reason for us to grow our own food. However, just about everybody to a member wants to grow some of their vegetables, flowers, and so on. So we're going to have an active greenhouse and so on. Here are some of the ecological aspects. And again, there's a rigid program that we're going to be following. We're not just going to be paying lip service to this. I'll show that to you later. Here's my grandson, who's now 8 today, and Wanda, our 80-year-old yoga teacher. She's going to be teaching yoga in the Common House. Here we are sharing our activities together. So we are honoring the cultural and spiritual aspect. This is the 3rd major linchpin that makes EcoVillage. And so we honor people's visions and their celebrations. We have people going to Seders and Good Friday services tomorrow. We also have a whole variety of religious activities. We do not discriminate. We bring them all together. The 4th aspect is the economic. And quite frankly, the economic is what separates co-housing from the rest of most intentional communities, because we are not involved in businesses that the entire community is in. We are not involved with a common currency and so on. People are responsible for their own well-being, but we are sharing resources within the community. So those are the 4 aspects of the eco-village. And now I'll turn it back over to Margot to tell you where we are.
Yeah, we are located in a beautiful rural, semi-rural area outside of Philadelphia. You see the Schuylkill River on the upper right, and over by our dot, our red dot here is where our site is, near the French Creek, and with many trails. So within a 5-minute walk, we have stops in our little village of Kimberton and some trails that lead over to other trails that eventually take you further out. So there's a bicycle trail all the way to Philadelphia, which is our cultural center. And we're just blessed with opera and orchestra and restaurants. And we who are 65 ride the train for free and etc. But it's a train ride into Philadelphia. Not only do we have here pictured below is Longwood Gardens, beautiful garden area, but many gardens in our locale. So it's just a wonderful county that we live in. And here is Kimberton. We have a historic center of town. We're looking at our post office, and there are nearby. So these villages centered around an old 1875 or 1817, forget. Anyway, here's our Kimberton Whole Foods, which is an independent Whole Foods store, largest in our area, and just a wonderful gathering place for everybody. Very walkable. It's just 2 blocks away from our site. A Kimberton Inn, where we have wonderful restaurant meals, a park for the children, who our grandchildren too, who are part of our community. It's just across the street.
So this is a model we made of what the site might look like. This was a collaborative effort. We did 2 complete day-long retreat sessions to arrive at this. It is a very narrow site, but we managed. We have 29 homes. On what you see in front of you is about half of the site. The rest of it is woods and wetlands. It's oriented along the pedestrian walkway. The common house is in the middle. And you can see the carports, which provide our solar electricity. We've been in touch with many permaculturists. Here's 100 Fruit Farm in Bucks County. This fellow is introducing us to edible bushes and nuts. We intend to supplement our mandatory landscape architecture plan that's part of our submission to the township with our own ideas about growing and raising things. Here's one of our most prominent features. I will tell you there are several communities now that are embracing this panelized construction. This particular one is out of Baltimore, called Blueprint Robotics, but the first one was in Belfast, and that's in Maine. There are several in Canada also doing a passive house. The building is designed in such a way that even if you had no heat or cooling, it would be at 55 degrees year round. That's how well insulated it is. This is a factory built, which means that we save a tremendous amount of time in construction. And it's about the healthiest environment you can imagine. The air is filtered, we try to use standardized designs, which I'll show you. Here's a rendering I did of what the community might look like. I did this on an airplane at 30,000 feet, and for some reason people thought it was good enough to show again, so here it is. Clustered around the common house with the carports and so on. Here's some of the features we're going to be focusing on related to site management. We have to be on public water and public sewer because of the township ordinances. However, we have very strict stormwater management tools, so we will have rain gardens and various features like cisterns. Will be collecting water and managing it. Here is a diagram of how the energy is going to work, and we're going after a Department of Energy grant. Thanks to the federal legislation, we could have this entire package paid for. So we start with the arrays and it goes through the homes. We are privileged to be the first project of this kind in Pennsylvania to have a single electric meter, which is, it took a lot of negotiation with our utility company. And we plan on having robust solar carports so that most of our transportation is also off of the solar. This is the U.S. Green Building Council Sustainable Sites. This project has been around for quite a while. It came out of the LEED guidelines, which has been in existence for many years. But this scorecard shows you that we will be complying with a recognized measuring technique so that the township will be able to approve more homes in our project, and we will be a model for the rest of the community. We have to manage the site for 10 years and monitor it. This is not a normal process for most co-housing projects. Here's what the carports might look like. We're developing a ride-sharing program, and we've been in touch with the National Co-Housing Group as to how to manage this. Let's see, am I done with this? Yes, Margot.
Okay, so as I said, we're a 55 and older community, but we welcome the 20% younger families to join us. We are working to teach each other the aspects that Joel went over. And one of the things we've adopted, an idea from the National Co-Housing organization, was having social teams where we would divide up into different folks who come up with ideas for how to have fun together, how to get to know each other better through our downtime, not in meetings. And we buddy our newest members so that they feel that they can understand and work alongside somebody to bring them in. This is an organizational chart for our sociocratic governance, and our coordinating circle sits at the center with 3 core circles. The community life is a very active one with the membership, hospitality, common house, and the one that's the aging in place focuses the care and council. And same for governance, and then land and buildings on the physical side of things.
So here's a better diagram of our site. You can see the wetlands crosshatched in the upper right-hand corner that goes into the woods. The path you see going all around will disappear because we're going to use grass pavers, but that is to comply with the fire company who approved the boulevard. Most developments require 2 means of exiting, and we are allowed to just have the one. That way we don't bother the neighbors to the northeast there. So we're still working on the site plan, but this is basically what we have. This is a master plan. There are some co-housing communities and many intentional communities where you get a lot and you can build your own home. We're going to have it so that it conforms with the village. And here is a model just showing a cutaway of how a cluster might be organized. Here are the floor plans. They're downsized. They range in size from 900 to 1,300 or 1,400 square feet. two-story townhouses and single level duplexes, which are most economical. You can purchase a single floor. We do have some families that are purchasing upstairs and downstairs. The parents live downstairs, the kids live upstairs. In Denmark, it's the other way around. You want the kids downstairs to run outside, and you want the elders to get exercise. But anyway, that's so far what people have chosen. The common house is a single building that has all of the features in it that we want. This is a cutaway of a model that we had fun building, showing the great room with our dining, a large kitchen, and then rooms off to the side. There's a grade change of about 5 feet, so you can see where you walk in to the right, down, there's a lower level down to the lower left. We are not leveling the entire site. We're using the contours that we have. And this is a floor plan that shows you approximately what we'd like, if we can afford it. So, Margot, why don't you wrap it up?
Yes, we are looking for members, both investor members who are equity members willing to let their money be spent like a typical co-housing community. And also we have a track where we are escrowing members' down payments. So please look at our website and join us.
Yeah, and I put my email up in the chat box. I think it's the first message that's up now. So thank you. Let us know how we did with this. This is the first time we've run through this slideshow, and we'd like to do it again, but we need your feedback. I will stop sharing my screen. So
Thank
how
you.
did we do for time? Was that too much?
It's all right. Yeah, it was just fine. Thank you so much, Joel and Margot. I really appreciate that presentation and seeing the design of the community that will be. And it's exciting that you're getting closer and closer to being able to build. So I welcome questions from our audience. So please put your questions in the Q&A box. And we have some coming in. Firstly, your website. I don't think you included your website in the presentation. So what is that?
I will do that. I'll put that in right now.
Great, good. So website is coming into the Q&A box. And how far out are you thinking in terms of when you'll be able to build?
Well, this is the $64 question, isn't it? This has to do with an 8-month approval process with the town. And that involves everything from stormwater management to traffic studies to fiscal impacts. Some of you may be in rural sites where this kind of thing is not required, but we are under the eagle eye of I don't know how many consultants. We've got 15 consultants, and it's about $1 million in consulting fees just to get through the process of approvals. We have wonderful architecture teams, mechanical consultants, passive house designers, and so on. Right now, the costs are going through the roof, as you can imagine. We've tried to keep things under control, and we just got in some new prices from our construction manager, and we're looking at the sort of $450,000, $550,000 range. What we think in a year or two that's going to drop back, and we have not done our due diligence and reworked what we might cut back or where we could save some money. So that's just to give you an approximate answer. The 55 and older was
and Joel, let me field the questions just because not everyone can see them. So I want to know your response.
Sorry.
Yeah, so that's fine. So yeah, there's a question here. What made you decide to be primarily 55? And I'm curious, most 55 communities are just 55, but you have some opportunities for young families. So I'm curious if you could
Yes.
share that. Yeah.
Well, HUD allows for 2 or 3 options. And the one that we're selecting is the one where 20% younger families are allowed as heads of household. We've always wanted to be multi-generational. We are allowed an additional 15% of homes. We're trying to be economical. Without the 55 and older and without the sustainable sites options, we could only build around 20 homes. We'd like to keep the costs. You can imagine how much more it would be if we did not have those. We have 3 or 4 young families who've signed up already. We have to be careful that we don't exceed that, but we have about 14 members. We've had several invest already, upwards of $650,000 so far for the land, and as far as we've gotten. It's a $13 million project.
Wow. Wow. It's incredible. Okay, good. So you've answered some questions about how many members you have currently. I think because when you started, you shared that you began the community endeavor in 1999, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And if you could share with us, what would you say has been some of the reasons for why it has taken so long? That building. Yeah.
Well,
I would say the zoning is the primary reason that we were unable to find a parcel of land that would allow co-housing, and they had to change the ordinance to make it possible. And that's why we're doing sites and other sustainable features.
Yeah, the zoning's a big reason. Another is that we didn't get really serious initially. We didn't do a big land search. We presented to all the townships in the area, and we've looked at as many as 20 different sites over the years. We've had over 500 or 600 people come through our doors. It's been a wonderful experience. It's just been a joy to keep working on it. And, people say, well, you guys are serious. You kept it up for this long. Anyway, we're not giving up.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. And I can just feel how your efforts are, of course, going to pay off for your community and hopefully future communities that would like to do a similar project that you're really trailblazing.
I should mention, Cynthia, that we are a nonprofit and we are helping other communities. In fact, I'm consulting with communities now in 4 other states. And, so we're a collaborative project here. We're not fighting with other communities for members. And, we just joined the Mid-Atlantic Co-housing Association, and you'll see us on the open house day for the national and so on.
Okay.
So we're very happy to share everything. We've shared our bylaws with communities. We've shared our ordinances. We've, talked it through. I wish we were built.
Yeah, I bet. Well, thank you for making those resources available and your services. Good for people to pay attention and know that that's available. Great. Well, I'd like to move to our next presenter, but we do have some more questions I see in the chat and the Q&A. So if you want to share, yeah, great. I can see you typing to share the kind of home that you're building. I think people are curious about that model. Good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Margot.
Yeah, and we'll be on hand. We'll stick it out till the end here because we're interested in seeing dandelions and tacotals, whatever they are.
Yeah, yeah, I am curious too. Good. All right, so now we get to go over to Kim. And Kim and I know each other through working together at FIC. And I just want to let everyone here know that Kim is FIC's bookkeeper and is behind just the day-to-day practical ways that FIC lives and breathes is thanks to Kim. And so I just want to give her a huge shout out and lots of love and appreciation for the work that she does behind the scenes. Yeah, and I'm really excited to learn about Kim's community, Dandelion. I don't know much about it. So yeah, Kim, please introduce your community.
Okay, thank you, Cynthia. I'll share my screen. Hi. I live at Dandelion. We started in 2006, but currently it's just me and my daughter Nina who live here. We're in Northeast Missouri. So we get all 4 seasons about equally well. And we're situated kind of down in a little valley, and it's rolling hills around us, in a very rural area. I was going to move my slides around a little bit. Anyway, so I have on this one, Goals of Dandelion. We really care about simple living and living in a way that is like aiming towards sustainability and low ecological harm. So I put on here, like, we aim to live in a way that if everyone were living in this way, there would be enough for everyone. We also practice human scale agriculture. We don't currently use tractors and only very rarely borrow a chainsaw. We just do a lot with our own human bodies. Although, of course, there is a time and a place for equipment and machinery. We're interested in permaculture. We have a young food forest, and we do our best to have regenerative land practices with our management. And yeah, just simple living. Which is like obviously in quotes, because it's not so simple. It's really complex, but to just like maximize the control we have over our own time, minimize the amount of time we have to spend like working for, you know, the man or whoever, making money, and just like living in ways that are more in alignment with nature than what can often be found outside in Babylon. And so, yeah, Dandelion is a part of Red Earth Farms, which is a 76-acre community land trust. And here's a map of that. And we're in the northeast corner there. And we have, you know, a pond and some woods. And then mostly when we bought this land in 2005, it was all just cow pasture. And so any buildings that are on the land have been built by people who've come here since then. And currently Red Earth Farms is full. And so in some ways I have a lot of community, but also at Dandelion right now, it's a very small population. And so Dandelion the idea is to be a sub-community that's more intimately like sharing their lives together, because on the Red Earth Farms level, we're more just like a community of friendly neighbors. And, you know, we help each other out and stuff, but it's not like we're in each other's day-to-day business usually. And we're also a part of what they call the Tri-Communities area around here, which includes Dandelion EcoVillage and Sandhill Farm. Sandhill Farm is about 3 miles away, and Dandelion actually borders our property. We're kind of a cutout. And so on the north and on the east is the land of Dandelion. The village of Dandelion is about 3/4 of a mile away from my house. And so it's a 15-minute walk just to get to our friends over there. And then also within Dandelion, there's kind of a vision to have the possibility of different layers of community too. And so I mean, we started out a long time ago, but never really got members to come and stay. And so currently I'm pretty flexible. I think a lot of it can be case by case. I understand that the idea of a completely egalitarian income sharing subcommunity can feel scary to a lot of people who would prefer to have their own independent finances and maybe more control over things. And so it's like, I'm open to both the possibility of more family style intimate connections, or maybe, you know, it's like very close neighbors who we share gardens, we share certain things, but maybe we don't share a house, or maybe we don't share finances, you know, just kind of depending. A lot of it depends on who comes to join the community. And then, like, even though I live basically alone with my kid, I still have a sub community of sorts, because I'm a member of Critter Kitchen, which is at Dancing Rabbit. And so I eat my dinners over there in the evenings. And that's a 3-season kitchen with about, I mean, it varies because we often have work exchangers, but usually it's about 10 people. In the winter, it's only about 4 of us who are, I mean, 4 adults, and then there's like 3 kids. And then also I'm part of Fox Holler Farmstead. And so, like, currently at Dandelion, we don't have animals, but my best friends do. And so I do a lot over there. I co-manage the gardens over there too, and at Fox Holler Farmstead. And we, you know, there's pigs and goats and cows and turkeys and chickens and ducks. And so I get to have the opportunity of helping out with, you know, butchering and gardening over there as well. And that feels really good. Yeah, this is some pictures of Dandelion during the growing season last summer. I am super interested in plant genetics and plant breeding and experimenting with like improving certain seed varieties, especially I have some squashes I really like and some beans here. That high tunnel hoop house, we were fortunate to get a grant from the USDA to cover about 2/3 of the cost of it. And so that was really wonderful. I think we put that up in like 2011. So we've had it for a while now. Yeah, these are just some things from last year that we grew. Those are the squashes are ones that we sold to a restaurant in St. Louis, and that was kind of fun to go to St. Louis and sell our food and then come home. Benefits of living at Dandelion: built-in exercise. We regularly walk for dinner or to socialize with our friends over at Dancing Rabbit. And it's also a 1/4 mile walk from the parking lot, which is really sweet. And like our walk to Dancing Rabbit, we don't have to go on a like county road or anything. It's just walking through the woods and over the hills. You know, it's really a beautiful commute. And we do a lot of hauling, buckets and carts. We try not to drive on the land if we can help it. You know, once in a while we will, but for the most part, if we need to take something heavy somewhere, we're going to do it in a cart just by pulling it ourselves. It's a very peaceful environment. A lot of people comment about how it feels very peaceful here. And as far as weather and climate goes, I really feel like we're pretty well situated for the, you know, potential future of weathering out the climate change as it happens and different things become more extreme. Like we typically get a good amount of rainfall and decent temperatures, you know, to have a growing season where we can actually produce some of our own food. And although we are in a rural area, since we're around the Dancing Rabbit and Red Earth Farms and Sandhill, we are like, there's just, the community is filled with like valued people. And I trust, you know, it's like everyone, we all leave our houses unlocked and we trust each other with our kids. And I don't know, it just feels really good to have, to like raise a child in that environment where, you know, you're not worried about it. And then like benefit of living at Dandelion is that since we are kind of attempting to be an egalitarian community, we don't necessarily require money from people who are coming here. It's usually a case-by-case basis, and we try to have lots of open communication about like what contributions feel good and balanced to everyone involved. And so there can be some flexibility in that. And sometimes people do pay money to be here, and then often it's more of a work exchange or something like that. And we will usually cover people's meals and housing as much as possible, but we don't, like for our work exchangers, they are responsible for their own just like miscellaneous expenses and you know, healthcare and stuff like that. These are just some images of how it can be pretty here sometimes. Challenges of living at Dandelion. It is rustic and rugged. This is a picture of my moldering toilet outhouse. And so this is where we go to the bathroom. I really like it because I am conserving water and closing the nutrient cycle of our waste. And I feel really like good about that. But it is like when it's 20 degrees outside and I need to go to the bathroom, I go out there, and that's just how it is. But people can also have something like that in their house, like just a bucket system or something if they wanted to, but it's not what we do. And I don't know, it's just one of those things. I think it's one of the big hindrances for people is like how rugged it is. We don't also have like running water or a you know, hot water on demand, that kind of thing. If we want hot water, we have to heat it up on a fire. Yeah, it can feel uncomfortable. There's chiggers and ticks and poison ivy and humidity in the summer. We don't have AC, but we do have a nice pond to cool off in, and you can take a little bucket bath, and that feels good too. Scrub up with a washcloth. And we are off grid, so we do have Wi-Fi, but it doesn't reach everywhere. And we have like some electricity, but it's not gonna run super high powered appliances. Yep, I already mentioned it's hot and humid, and then it can get very cold in the winter. But as long as, you know, you have proper clothing and a nice warm fire to come home to, that feels good. And yeah, a lot of people, even though it's pretty here, it's not the climate, you know, that they were looking for. They want the oceans or the mountains, and that's totally understandable. I grew up in the Midwest, and so this is kind of like, it feels like home in a way to me. We are rural in a part of the country that is very white, and although the neighbors are kind, it can feel hard to not have much ethnic diversity here. And it can also feel isolating because I'm a very busy person. And so like new people coming here, there are lots of opportunities to plug in. But it also, you got to kind of create your own social experience here. If you want to be hanging out with people, you got to make some effort. It's not just like, you're not going to always see somebody all the time. You might have to like walk, or I don't know, hang out with people, like set up dates and stuff. Housing options, we have like one tiny house available, and then we have a little cabin that's not, you know, it's just like for camping and kind of, and then a 3-bedroom little small house that's not finished yet. And so, yeah, we just, as more people will come, we need to create more infrastructure. And I don't personally have those skills. And so it's like not something I can necessarily make happen on my own. And then finally, it can be a little bit challenging to find paid work here because it is like the nearest town is about a 20-minute drive away, and it's pretty small. So if you just want to get a job at the gas station or something, it's like a pretty big commute. These are just some pictures of my water catchment system. I love simple technology. And so like outside of our house, this PVC pipe, you know, it's like we catch rain off of our roof and it runs down and normally just washes out. But then if we put a little cap on the end of the pipe, it can go into our cistern, and then we have just a hand pump to pump into our gravity fed, you know, filter there. And the bucket is like how we wash our hands. We don't really have plumbed in lines of water. We just dump some water into a bucket. And so it's like we have a very minimal use of water compared to most people. And then here's inside of what we call the blue house. It's the building that has been built to house new people who come. At first, it's no one's dream home, I would say, and it's not completely finished. You can see it's just got like OSB on the walls, but at least it's better than camping in a tent. And so here's our contact information. Email's probably the best way, or you can contact me through the directory listing. We have like a website on Red Earth Farms website, but mostly it just kind of points you to the directory listing. And yep, that's me and my daughter Nina and our cats, and that's us. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay, thank you so much, Kim. I really appreciate you sharing about your community. I didn't know much about it, so I feel like you've just given me a window into your world and your life, and it really is, it's quite different than what most people in the United States, at least, how they live, and certainly the other community that we saw earlier. And I just want to celebrate you for pursuing this lifestyle that is, you know, challenging in some ways, but also really beautiful in other ways. And I want to emphasize for everyone that where Kim lives is this area where there are several intentional communities. And so so Dancing Rabbit is the most sizable one, but there's also Sandhill Farm and then Red Earth Farms, of which Dandelion is a subset. So even though you are a small community, there's like what, like over 100 people in your area connected?
I'd say more like 60, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but that's huge. That makes all the difference when you're in such a rural place.
Definitely.
Great. Good. Okay, so questions for Kim. Please put them in the Q&A box. And I'm going to see. Okay. So tell us about the building codes in your area. I think I know the answer to this one, but tell us about the zoning and the county regulations around building homes.
Basically, there are none, which is the main reason that Dancing Rabbit settled here when they did, and Sandhill, I think it was also a big deal for them. But yep, so there's lots of opportunities to experiment with natural building styles. And like my buildings, they're covered in metal, so they don't really look very natural, but we have used some like straw bale and earth bags and things like that, and like clay straw in our buildings. It's just we've put metal on the outside to keep them a little bit more durable.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So if you can imagine this, you know, no building codes, you really get to create whatever you want. And that's, yeah, I think there's some interesting trade-offs with being in such a rural area. You get to have such freedom and openness, but at the same time, you know, you're farther from the cities and such. I guess what brought you to living there? If you could share a little bit more about your own journey, Kim.
I mean, that would be a very long story, I'm sure. But I guess, well, maybe one thing, I grew up not too far from here, like 300 miles south or so. So this climate I enjoy, and it's somewhat close to my family, which is nice. Close, but not too close. And yeah, I grew up on 5 acres, and we had gardens and passive solar house. And so like those ideas are not new for me. You know, my dad hunted, stuff like that. So I've always kind of been involved in my own food processing sometimes with helping my mom or helping my dad or whatever. And so I think that just like food is a big deal. Also traveling, I went to some parts of Costa Rica that were very like impoverished, and just recognizing the privilege that we have. You know, there are people who like literally live in a tin shack, and like, yes, it's easier to do that in the tropics, but it's still like even a very poor American still is rich beyond compare to a lot of people living on the earth. And then like seeing the opulence and that, you know, I don't know. It's just, I wanted to like model something that was different, where it's like, yes, of course, like I have lots of nice things and I'm very privileged. And also I'm trying to like kind of take a vow of poverty in a way, in solidarity with like all the people on the planet, and like, yeah, trying to model sustainable ways for us to live together rather than, you know, just frittering away all the resources.
Yeah, like you said, living in such a way that if everyone lived like this, there would be enough for everyone. Yeah. Beautiful. How far is the community from St. Louis?
Oh, it's about 3.5 hour drive. It's about 150 miles or so.
Gotcha. Okay. And then one other question for you. Who owns the land at your community?
Red Earth Farms Community Land Trust owns the land, and it's a nonprofit corporation. And what we have is a 99-year lease that's a renewable, transferable, and inheritable lease with a one-time payment. So my lease is kind of indefinite and it's all paid off, but I don't have rights to just sell to anyone. If I were to leave, I can only sell to someone who is approved to be a member of Red Earth Farms.
Gotcha. So if somebody were to join Dandelion, would they also need to go through the membership process for Red Earth Farms?
Eventually they would, eventually, because at Red Earth Farms, we prefer people, if they've been living here for 6 months or longer, to have some sort of official relationship with the community. And so if someone really wanted to make a long-term home here, then that would be a part of it too, is joining Red Earth, yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, great.
Mhm.
Good. Well, thank you so much, Kim, for sharing. And thank you everyone for those questions. And yeah, just appreciate getting to learn more about you and the place that you call home. It looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll go over to Costa Rica. We're gonna hear from Matthew, who goes by Human. Yeah, and I'm really excited to hear about this community because I also don't know very much about it. So big welcome and thank you for your patience.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I actually have really enjoyed hearing about these other projects. And yes, like you said, they're so different. All of our different projects are just like kind of, it's amazing and also inspiring to see all these different things happening and like everywhere, you know, it's such a movement. So thank you. And thanks you guys for your presentations. I enjoyed them. Okay. First of all, I'm here representing Collectivo Tacotal. I guess I'll start by saying, who am I? My name is Matthew Human. My friends just call me Human or Humano. I was a professional touring musician and singer-songwriter for 15 years, almost 20 years now. My band was Matthew Human and the Human Revolution. You can find our music on all the things. And as a musician, I was really mission-based. And my whole thing was all about connecting the like underground, the eco-villages, you know, and these kinds of movement-based things. I was an activist, so primarily starting with the hemp and cannabis movement, and then GMO, genetically modified organisms, and fighting against the growth of that movement. And so I was very much like, you know, always seeking out these kind of underground venues and locations and just trying to keep the dialogue going. And remember, this is like the beginning of the internet. Well, I mean, you can't remember because you didn't know this, but this is like 20 years ago when the internet was still kind of a fairly new thing and there was communication happening, but it wasn't as like it is now. You couldn't do this, what we're doing right now. So the information wasn't happening yet through the channels. All this underground information came from people like me going around and like sharing the word and spreading the word and sharing ideas. And I'm sure some of you guys have also been a part of those kinds of things from your past too. And so I visited, as a musician, I visited Earth Haven, Dancing Rabbit, Red Earth. I've stayed at Red Earth Collective, and the farm in Tennessee. I've played at a lot of these places. I sought out these kinds of places. So this is something like I was always very passionate and interested about community, coming from first like the kind of music world, the Grateful Dead and Fish, and then discovering the rainbow gatherings and these kinds of alternative things. I studied anthropology. I became very interested in alternative ways of living. And so this was kind of like the basis of who I am and why I joined. I'm also into yoga. I'm a chef, you know, non-dairy. And currently I am the land manager for Tacotal Collectivo, which means I maintain and manage all of the roads, the water systems, whatever. I'm kind of a go-to on the land guy, handle payments for all of our workers and support and all that. And I'm also the founder of my own project, Finca Vida Verde, which is an eco-educational retreat center that exists inside of the Tacotal Collectivo. Okay, so Tacotal, I'm just going down this list here. By the way, I apologize. I did not throw together this epic, what do you call it? The presentation that all you guys put together. I feel really underprepared. I just figured out how to use Google Slides, and I did put together something like 10 minutes before this thing. It's got about 5 slides. So I'm going to mostly talk, but you can throw it up. Yeah, if you want.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead and throw that up.
Get a little,
also,
visual.
Yeah, totally. I didn't realize that you had been to Dancing Rabbit in so many communities. That's awesome. Love
Totally.
it. Thank you for all that. Yeah, movement building, network building work you've done.
Well, you know, I do my part. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I should say the same to you. I'd say you're probably doing much more than I ever did right now. Okay, so you can go to the next one.
Okay.
So yeah, so this is just this is a picture of all the freaks and weirdos that make up Tacotal Collectivo. Some of these people are actually no longer part of our community, but this was a representation of who we were at one point. The majority of these people still are part of the community. So we kind of started off as like a loose group of friends. We found each other through Northern California music festivals, primarily like in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, and rainbow gatherings. And then Burning Man was a big part of, I wasn't actually part of the Burning Man camp, but Burning Man was a big part of the ultimate foundation of what became our land. They were, the core group were at a Burning Man, and they were building, you know, these temporary villages, and they were just like, why don't we just build this permanently? And so we had the benefit of Mr. Stephen Brooks, who's in this picture. Where is he at? He's this down there, right next to me, exactly. Stephen, who is pretty well known here in Costa Rica as a community builder and a permaculturist. He had founded Punta Mona Center for Regenerative Living, regenerative education back in like 30 years ago. And so he's been here for a long time doing this kind of work in Costa Rica. And he had started this company called Copali Organics, which is a food-based company. Their whole mission was to support the farmers, support the business as well, but also to support the farmers. And they were like kind of like a high-end gourmet version. They were in all the Whole Foods, and it was a little more expensive, the product, but they were giving back more to the farmers. So they had this big mission project, and I was supporting that, you know, through various ways, just through music mostly. And they decided to start this other community project called Copali Communities and start a food-based community, basically. Like, hey, if we can have a golf course community, why can't we have a community of houses built around a garden? And so that was called Copali Communities. It eventually became what is now called La Ecovia, which is another project right up the road. Right after they found that land, they heard about this land right up the road here and came to check it out. Him and Christian, who's also in this picture in the middle, came and visited the land, and they decided, you know what, this would be perfect for our friends community that we've been trying to do, this kind of Burning Man community. Most of these people probably wouldn't be able to afford to live in the kind of community that we envision for La Ecovia. But this is just a piece of land. It's off the grid, and these guys are like rustic and don't have a lot of money. So let's see what we can do. So they kind of put together this presentation and originally found 6 people to put in 50,000. They bought the land for like 250 or so. I don't remember how much it was back then. Right now it's like this area, it's ridiculous to even think about land being that cheap, because this area has just become such a very it's become very expensive. I don't know, expensive is relative. It's grown in value. The land values have gone up. So basically bought the land, and that was kind of the basis. And then those 6 people were allowed, 5 people, it was 5 people put down 50,000 each. I think 6 people, and then those 6 people were allowed to sell 3 of their shares and maintain 1. So then we had kind of let's see, 6 times 4 is 24, and then there was a 2 sweat equity pods that were brought in. So 2 sweat equity pods, meaning they were going to work and do work trade in order to get their shares. So at that point, I think we had 32 was our total at one point. Right now, that's changed a lot, because over the years, a lot of us have consolidated. And for instance, I have, as people were selling, I bought up their shares, a couple of their shares, and a couple other members have bought up other shares, or so that kind of has happened. So we're now 25 families, 19 mostly based in the United States, with plans to come down here or spending half the year down here. 6 of them are Costa Rican families that were just kind of, again, we didn't necessarily say, hey, we're looking for like Costa Rican families. They were just friends of our community. They were part of our friends network. And so now, so that's kind of what we are. We're now a bilingual, we speak English and Spanish. We conduct our meetings in English and Spanish. And yeah, I mean, it's a trip. We never, we had a constitution from the beginning. That was what attracted me to it, was the quality of the people. There was a lot of really interesting people who were successful in their own ways. We have a couple people that have plumbing companies. We had builders. We had, Stefan Schechter from EcoTea's Mate Company was one of our original members. So like, these were successful people that I wanted to be aligned with. And so I came down, Stephen brought me down. We jumped in the river, we ate mangoes, and the next year they're like, hey, you want to, or like a month later, he was like, hey, you want to buy in? And at the time I was in this place where I was like, I know I want to be in the tropics. I was spending a lot of time on Maui in Hawaii, and really just, I was born in New York and I was raised in Ohio. There's no part of me that ever wants to spend a cold friggin' winter again, like a couple days I'll do it, No offense, Pennsylvania, Missouri, you guys, I got deep respect for you guys holding it down, but like, my body does not like those things. So I've learned that I want to be where I can grow the food that I want to eat. I was a raw vegan for years, vegan, whatever. I'm not anymore, but I wanted to be able to grow the kind of food I want to eat: bananas, mangoes, avocados, durians, like the things that I really love. I want to be able to grow them. I don't want to have to import them or whatever. So that requires me being somewhere in the tropics. And then the river sold me, I mean, this place, and also the community. It was like people that like one of my former band members was in the community. And so it's just people that I already knew. It was a lot of kind of our friends, and I didn't know everybody, but I joined anyways, and have obviously gotten into them over time. Maybe you can go to the next slide. What's the next? Oh yes, this is our swimming hole in the magical Rio Machuca. That's what sold me right there. I was just like, we have like right here what Disney World tries to create and spends millions of dollars. God made this amazing thing that is just unbelievable. So this area, a little bit about this area is, it was called Desamparados, the forgotten land. It was known as Desamparados. This area was not a very populated area. It was actually very, very rural. There was a lot of mango orchards in this area. We're in the kind of the fruit growing region of the country. There was a lot of cattle, and the land was just very like, it was all cattle. We still have neighbors who spray their fence lines with nasty chemicals and like, are just eroding the land. I mean, cattle can be used for good too, don't get me wrong, but these people are not doing regenerative farming. You know what I mean? They're just kind of doing what they've been doing for generations and how they've learned. But there's a major opportunity for education, and this is happening slowly through our communities, like mixing and communicating. These kinds of ideas are spreading, and like just the idea that like why you shouldn't spray that 2,4-D along your fence line because it's not, you know what I mean? Like it's things that some people, they just don't think about it. You know what I mean? It's not that they're meaning to do bad. They just aren't really aware of the fact, oh, that's going to go into my water. Oh, that causes cancer to children, stuff like that. So we are 77 acres along the Rio Machuca. This is our Rio Machuca in the Avocado Mountains. We are 1 hour west of the capital of Costa Rica, which is San Jose. And pretty much, I mean, you can watch Stephen has many talks. If you look up Stephen Brooks, like his Burning Man talk was a really good one. He did a TED talk at Burning Man. It's a good one that kind of explains most of it. But he'll tell you like why they chose this area was very much intentional, because he had this center called Punta Mona, which is 6 hours from the capital down in the south, or 5 hours from the capital down in the South Caribbean, which you have to take a boat to get to. Like there's no roads. It's amazing, it's beautiful, and it's very hard to get to. And so the idea was, we want to be, okay, 1 hour from an international airport so that travel is easy, because we're a very international culture. We're very international people. We move around. We're movers and shakers. We're business owners. We wanted to be on an amazing river with super crystal clear water where you can like literally lay out on a rock naked and then fall into the river and drink the water. That was part of the criteria. We wanted to be in a place where we could grow food year round. So this was also met the criteria. I mean, when you start coming up with the criteria, you just get a map and then you're like, circle the places where it could be. There wasn't really so many, to be honest. So that's how they found the land that became La Ecovilla, and then subsequently this land that became Tacotal Collectivo. Again, when I joined, we had a constitution, just some very basic principles. It seemed mostly fleshed out. We've had to completely overhaul it over the time. We are a consensus -1 based community, meaning we vote in pod structures. So we have 6 pods, and each pod has a vote. And then if one pod dissents, then it still passes. If 2 pods dissent, it doesn't pass. So that's kind of our main voting structure, which sometimes makes things hard and takes time to flush things out. They have to be really well thought out. We're a membership-based community. Not anybody can just join. You can't just buy a piece of land, buy in. You have to be accepted as a member, which is different from the other communities in our area. They're HOA based. Anybody could buy in, buy a piece of land, and that's just it's a different way, a different model of doing things. Our basic principles are permaculture, nonviolence, obviously including nonviolent communication. Obviously, we're not always great at it, but we do our best, and we're always striving to be better. Agriculture, basically, in our constitution, this is one of the things that interested me, was the ability to grow food in our own way, obviously through organic methods. We don't want to use chemicals. but also just kind of to do things in our own way, which is very different. Some of us have very different ideals. For instance, some of our members are very conservation based. I'm not a conservationist. I'm a stewardship. I believe in stewardship. I believe the land is better served by humans living in a place and stewarding it well versus just letting nature take it over. That also has its place. I'm not taking away from that, but a study I saw at Bioneers a couple years ago also backed that as a better, more efficient way of reclaiming land. Let's see. Okay, we have dry toilets. Yeah, thanks. You can keep changing the slides. There's only 5, so you know, like, you just go slow. We have dry toilets. All of our toilets. There's one member that just submitted to have a septic system, which is, I fought it for as long as I could, and eventually I was just like, okay, you know, I'm not going to fight it because I don't want to fight my fellow members. They had a well thought out system. I personally wouldn't want that next to my house, but they believe they've got it figured out. Their neighbors, their direct neighbors, didn't oppose, so it ended up passing. But most of us have dry toilets, human manure composting systems. We use the material to feed our fruit trees. Water preservation is a big deal here because we have a rainy season and a dry season. Rainy season lasts about 8 months. The dry season is about 4 months. And when it's dry, like right now, it's bone dry. It's like, you know, there's water is going to continue to become more of an issue. Also, autonomy is a big issue, is a big one of our main tenets, and kind of a duocracy is what the word they always use. Like, you know, kind of people, we're allowed to kind of do things in our own way. You know, we don't have so many bylaws and rules that, you know, some of these other communities around us do have more of those, but we're pretty like, you know, live and let live was kind of one of our main kind of philosophies. We started in 2007. I joined in 2008. Like I said, I ate a bunch of mangoes. These guys are actually some of our like kind of an extended community that kind of joined our community. These are mostly mosquitoes. They're from the indigenous mosquito people from the Caribbean coast of Nicaragua and Honduras. And they kind of have started coming here looking for work for years. And now we're just like, they're kind of like part of our family a little bit, you know, like some of them, they go home, some of them live here on the land with us, some of them live in the local community, but you know, they've kind of helped us build our world here. And it's really cool because there is a bit of like a worker, boss dynamic, I guess, but like, it's also like over 11 years, we've developed more like a familial kind of thing. And they're really grateful for the work because there's no work where they live. So the work that they have available to them is like working for less than $1 a day in the gold mine, or $2 a day in the gold mines, or, you know, free diving for lobsters. And they're just like, you know, they're really cool community. You probably go to the next picture. This is my farm, Finca Vida Verde. This is like our main house, and this is kind of our sunset. So our ideals were really strong when we joined together. We had all the, you know, we were kind of very idealistic, young hippie kind of, not, you know, ideals. And over time, a lot of those things have changed. Some people have had children, some people got jobs, went back to school. So we all had this intention of like moving down here and doing this community thing together. But, you know, just leaving the US was not as easy for some people as it was for others. So I'm one of probably me and maybe 3 other people are the main ones who have really made the jump. And so there's only about 4 of us that are living here full time year round. I'm one of them. 2 of them are Costa Rican. One of them is one of our members, Brad, who's from Alaska. And then we have a number of people who come for 6 to 8 months. out of the year and spend a lot of time here, but then they also make money traveling or working in Europe. Sarah Wu, for instance, is one of our awesome members. She's an herbalist, and she teaches permaculture and herbalism in Europe for 4 or 5 months out of the year. Also, her husband has land in Italy where they're developing an eco project. So they're kind of back and forth. Cyril Amé is a French jazz singer who tours internationally. So she's on the road a lot. So it's a pretty diverse community. I think music is one of the things that really brings us together as a community. Let's see.
Yeah, I think that's it for the slides.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, no
I'm sorry, I
problem.
have more time to put together a better presentation.
That was a great presentation. Thank you so much, Human, for sharing about your community. I didn't know about you all, and we did have La EcoVilla on a previous virtual tour, and that is posted on the FIC YouTube channel, so folks can go learn about that community. But yeah, it seems like you have a really special spot. I would love to visit if I get the chance. Yeah, this seems amazing.
Who gave the La Covia presentation? Was it Marcelo?
Marcelo.
Yeah, and now, so this area, like other than La Covia and Tacotal, we were the first. I mean, Tacotal was the first, La Covia was the second. And now there's Alegria Village, which is right across the street, which Stephen co-founded. And now there's La Covia San Mateo, which is right down the road, which is another 300 and something families, which Marcelo is currently working on. I mean, this place is like, we started off here homesteading in the middle of nowhere, like literally like the only gringos in this whole area, the people, 4 of us living on the land under tarps sometimes and in tents. And now it's like just this like kind of like interesting, like new world in a very international, very mixed, very diverse, like EcoVillage. I mean, it could always be more diverse. We don't have a lot, not as many African Americans as I would like, or African descendant people, but it's very international. There's a lot of South Americans, a lot of Europeans, Canadians, Americans, Costa Ricans, other Central Americans. So it's pretty diverse around here.
Okay. Yeah. It's amazing how that can happen with one community really paving the way for so many others. It sounds like that's definitely a hot spot. And, and we heard earlier about Altair EcoVillage and the work that they're doing to kind of pave the way. And, and also I would say what's happening with Dancing Rabbit and Dandelion and Red Earth Farms. There's this compounding effect when we can get a community thing happening. It tends to attract other communities to the area. Beautiful. Okay, so we are just a few minutes away from wrapping up. So I do want to make space if anyone has any questions for Matthew specifically about their community, feel free to put them in the chat. But yeah, just with our last few minutes, I'd love to just round this out by hearing a little bit from each of you. If there is one piece of advice that you might give to someone from your vantage point of having now spent many years in some form of community process, what advice would you give to somebody who is starting out and maybe thinking of joining a community or building one? So just really quick here, and feel free, whoever wants to go first.
I'll start. I would say don't be attached to outcome, and don't be afraid to just do it, because it's never going to be, you can spend your whole time planning something and it may never happen. Just just start doing it. Even if it's like, if you want to have a giant center, start with a little shack, you know what I mean? And then build up from there.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I think my advice would be, if you can possibly find someplace that demonstrates, 90% of what you're looking for, try it out. It takes a lot of effort to start a new community. And there's so many communities out there that do have available space. And so I just definitely recommend, I mean, visiting a lot if people have the means to do that. And then instead of just saying, oh, I want to do it all myself, starting a new one, just like go see what's out there. See if you can find something that's pretty similar to what you're looking for, because that's just going to give so much more of a jump on the true community aspect, rather than having to like go through the process of creating bylaws and forming, whatever entity.
Yes, definitely. Easier to join than to start. What didn't you say, Joel? What advice do you have? And you too, Margot.
Well, I'm heartened by the fact that people really have dived in. Human, that was really cool. I'm going to look up a lot of your stuff. Next time I go to Costa Rica, I'm going to visit. I would say get a business plan together right away with the good professionals. Members will come if you build it. We do have very good member input, and we are attracting a lot of people. On the other hand, we are running into some issues with the finances and some of the consultants. So that's where we are right now. We hope to see you in a year or so built. Margot.
Yes, I just would add that it's a wonderful process, and just enjoy it all the while. The fact that you can collaborate with a group of people and unfold something amazing is really the process is the important thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Not so much the outcome, just the process of being in collaboration to try to make a community happen. I'm wishing that, yeah, you all get the members that you want and are able to start building really soon. Wishing you just so much luck and smoothness in this final phase. And thank you all. Thank you for your words of wisdom. Thank you for sharing about your communities and all the hard work that you've put into making them a reality. Really, really thank you for that work to be the trailblazers towards a better world. So yeah, we'll sign off here. Thanks everyone for listening. Thank you all for taking the time. And of course, you can catch the recording on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.